In a land where homeownership was once the golden ticket to prosperity, a creeping shadow of inflation looms large. As the consumer price index spikes, millions of Americans find themselves trapped in a fever dream of rising rents and unattainable mortgages. This is not just a statistic, it's a shattering of dreams, a collective reckoning with a reality that threatens to redefine what it means to be truly American. Since the dawn of the 20th century, homeownership has served as a cornerstone of the American dream, symbolizing stability and prosperity. Yet, as inflation rates soar to heights unseen in decades, this dream becomes increasingly elusive for many. The once straightforward path to owning a home is now fraught with economic uncertainty and rising costs, echoing the struggles of generations past. This narrative of homeownership, intertwined with the relentless rise in living expenses, paints a stark picture of a nation grappling with its ideals. In the wake of World War II, a new era dawned in America, marked by an unprecedented surge in homeownership that promised stability and prosperity. The suburbs blossomed, and the white picket fence became a symbol of a thriving middle class, a tangible manifestation of the American dream. Yet, as inflation creeps into the fabric of everyday life, this dream is increasingly overshadowed by the harsh reality of economic pressures, leaving many to ponder whether home ownership will remain an attainable aspiration or fade into a distant memory. The American dream, once built on the promise of homeownership, has deep roots in a post-war prosperity that reshaped the nation. As the suburbs expanded in the 1950s, they became symbols of success, with white picket fences embodying hope and stability. Yet, the pulsating heartbeat of this ideal began to falter as economic forces shifted, sowing seeds of disillusionment that would echo through generations. Today, as inflation rises and wages stagnate, the dream of owning a home feels increasingly out of reach for many, marking a pivotal moment in the evolution of American aspirations. As the post-war era ushered in an unprecedented wave of prosperity, home ownership became the ultimate symbol of success, weaving itself into the very fabric of the American dream. Yet, as inflation tightened its grip on the economy, the once attainable dream began to slip through the fingers of many, transforming from a promise of stability to a distant aspiration. This evolution marked a profound shift in the national psyche, as the front yards and picket fences that once epitomized hope now stand as stark reminders of a reality increasingly out of reach. As inflation surges, the once stable ground of homeownership begins to quake beneath the weight of rising interest rates and sky-high prices. Families, once eager to plant roots and build futures, now find themselves grappling with a disheartening reality. Houses are not just homes anymore. They are battlegrounds in a fierce struggle for stability. The dream that once seemed attainable is slipping through their fingers, leaving only a haunting echo of what once was. In this crucible of economic despair, the stakes have never been higher and the American dream hangs precariously in the balance. As the inflation numbers flicker across screens, the American landscape transforms, each statistic echoing the heartbeats of families grappling with the unrelenting pressure of rising costs. Zillow pages, once a gateway to dreams, now serve as a haunting reminder of aspirations slipping through fingers like sand. The dream of homeownership hangs in the balance, a fragile thread woven into the fabric of an increasingly disillusioned society, where the stakes of economic survival clash with the deep-seated desire for stability and belonging. As inflation continues to spiral, the dream of homeownership slips further from grasp, leaving a nation in turmoil. The once comforting notion of a white picket fence is now a haunting specter, shadowed by rising prices and dwindling opportunities. Every Zillow search becomes a painful reminder of aspirations unfulfilled, as families grapple with an increasingly unattainable ideal. If you find this video insightful, please consider subscribing to support this channel. The stakes have never been higher as the American dream teeters on the brink of collapse, threatening to drown the hopes of millions beneath the weight of economic despair. As inflation grips the nation like a vice, geopolitical tensions simmer beneath the surface, revealing a landscape where economic power plays dictate the fate of the American dream. In this precarious balance, rival nations vie for dominance, while the American homeowner watches helplessly from the sidelines, their aspirations tethered to a volatile market. Every Zillow search becomes a silent protest against a backdrop of strategic maneuvers and diplomatic rivalries that threaten to reshape the very foundation of home ownership in America. As inflation gnaws at the fabric of American life, the geopolitical landscape shifts beneath our feet. Each statistic a battle cry in the war for the American dream. With rising interest rates and dwindling affordability, the once sacrosanct notion of homeownership becomes a pawn in a high-stakes game of economic strategy. The rivalry between aspiring homeowners and a market dominated by investors reflects a deeper struggle for identity, security, and legacy in a nation that has always promised opportunity. In this theater of power, where homes are no longer mere shelters but symbols of status and survival, the stakes have never been higher. As inflation soars and the cost of living spirals out of control, American families find themselves ensnared in a geopolitical game where housing has become the ultimate battleground. In this high-stakes arena, the dream of homeownership morphs into a mirage, manipulated by forces far beyond individual control. The titans of finance and policy make their moves, leaving ordinary citizens grappling with the stark reality that the very foundation of their aspirations is now a pawn in a larger, unforgiving strategy. As inflation spirals to unprecedented heights, the dream of homeownership, the cornerstone of the American identity, begins to slip through the fingers of countless families. Zillow pages fill with listings that mock aspirations, while the stark reality of a dwindling middle class looms ominously. In this pivotal moment, the statistics become more than numbers. They transform into a haunting narrative of loss, echoing the sentiments of a generation that once believed a home was a promise, now eclipsed by the shadows of economic despair. As the numbers flash across screens, a stark reality emerges. Inflation has morphed from an economic statistic into a haunting specter that looms over every American's aspiration. The dream of home ownership, once a vibrant symbol of stability and success, now feels like a cruel mirage, slipping further away with each passing day. This is not merely a financial crisis. It is the death knell for the American dream, leaving a nation grappling with the profound emotional weight of lost promise. As inflation continues to rise, the very notion of homeownership, a cornerstone of the American dream, slips further from reach for millions. Families are forced to make heart-wrenching decisions, torn between rising rents and dwindling savings, their aspirations crushed under the burden of economic uncertainty. In this new reality, the once-beloved Zillow search transforms from a hopeful quest into a painful reminder of what could have been, highlighting the stark divide between desire and possibility. The consequences ripple through communities, reshaping lives and redefining what it means to be American in a time of crisis. As inflation gnaws at the fabric of American life, the dream of home ownership slips further from reach, leaving a wake of despair that echoes through communities. Families once united by the promise of a home now find themselves fractured, their aspirations crushed under the weight of soaring prices and stagnant wages. The stark reality is that for many, the American dream has transformed from a tangible goal into a distant fantasy, reshaping not only markets, but the very essence of what it means to be American. As we stand on the precipice of a new era, the dream of homeownership, once a symbol of stability and prosperity, now feels like a distant echo. The relentless rise in housing costs, exacerbated by inflation, has left many feeling adrift in a sea of uncertainty. Yet, in this moment of despair, we must ask ourselves, can we reclaim that dream? The answer lies not only in the policies we pursue, but in the collective will to forge a future where every American can once again find solace beneath their own roof. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the next documentary.